Greetings. As is alluded to in the title of this video, I wanted to do a brief piece on Deuteronomy 6:4 in the Sūlam. For those unfamiliar with the Sūlam, it is a less well-known text within Rabbinic Judaism, which typically comes together with the Zohar. While not all editions of the Zohar in print today come with the Sūlam, one can nonetheless get popular editions of the Zohar, which also include the Sūlam. For example, this edition here on your screen, which reads Sefer HaZohar, Book of the Zohar, on the cover, and then in smaller print it reads Pirush HaSūlam, explanation of the Sūlam. To quickly explain what the Sūlam is, we should start with the Zohar before it, or even the Torah before that. So let's first note the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, the central text of Judaism, which is also called the Pentateuch by some, and by others, the Chumash, at least when referring to printed bound editions. The Zohar is essentially a commentary on that text. Now, admittedly, it has all sorts of content which cannot be found explicitly mentioned in the Torah, but it nonetheless purports to be an esoteric and mystical commentary on the Torah. Of course, the Zohar also contains commentary on other parts of the rest of the Hebrew Bible, but it mainly follows the structure of the Torah, and thus the Zohar is primarily a commentary on the Torah, albeit a highly mystical one. On a side note, the Zohar is generally attributed to the Talmudic sage Shimon Bar Yochai, though many people today would say that it's actually a 13th century forgery by Moshe de Leon. Personally, I'm sympathetic to the view that it is a medieval text, though, to be careful, I think it includes some portions which actually predate the time of de Leon. Nevertheless, it has become firmly a part of normative Rabbinic Judaism, and that's why I appeal to it here, not because I personally think that the Zohar has any authority, but rather because it is firmly part of the Rabbinic spectrum, and thus it can show what is possible within Orthodox Jewish thought. As for the Sūlam, it is primarily a translation of the Zohar. The Zohar was written in Aramaic, and the Sūlam translates the Zohar into Hebrew. However, the Sūlam also intersperses into its translation all sorts of elucidatory comments, elaborations on the text. Therefore, rather than just a straight translation, it's also a commentary on the Zohar, sort of like what Targum Onkelos or the Tafsir of Sa'adia Gaon is to the Torah. In short, we can think of the Sūlam as a meta-commentary, which is to say a commentary on a commentary, insofar that the Zohar is a commentary on the Torah, and the Sūlam, in turn, is a commentary on the Zohar. Another quick technical note, while popular editions of the Zohar divide the text up according to volume and page, recto and verso, for example, you might see a Zoharic reference written as Volume 2, 133b, the Sūlam instead divides the text up according to the parashot, which is to say the weekly Torah portions within the rabbinic liturgy. So in this video, we will look at a couple of excerpts from specifically Parshat Teruma. This is actually timely, as Teruma happens to be the Parsha, the weekly Torah portion, which will be read in synagogues next week. And permit one final technical note before we finally get to Deuteronomy 6:4. I expect that some viewers might want to explore for themselves the Hebrew text, which will be shown here in this video. And the text which I'll be showing employs various abbreviations, acronyms, and deliberate changes in spelling. So I wanted to quickly explain 4 examples which are relevant to the excerpts which will appear in this video. So I ask that others bear with me for a moment. First, if you see a he with what looks like an apostrophe, that diacritic mark is called a geresh and is sometimes used to signify an abbreviation. The he with a geresh stands for Hashem, which literally means the name, and signifies the tetragrammaton, the 4-letter name of God. Elokeinu with a qaf stands in place of Eloheinu, Hebrew for our God. This change in spelling reflects a common rabbinic reluctance to fully write out references to God. Then we have Zayn and Aleph with what looks like a quotation mark between them. That mark is called Gershayim, which is the word Gerish in the dual, so literally two Gerishes, Gershayim. The Gershayim often signify an acronym. In this case, the Zayin and Aleph stand for Zeir Anpin, which literally means small face. We'll actually discuss this term a bit more later in the video. Finally, Bet Samechwa Gershayim He. This too is an acronym, and it stands for Basod HaChatub, which means in the secret of that which is written. This is used to introduce an esoteric interpretation of the biblical text. So, with all that before us, we can now finally get to Deuteronomy 6:4. The Hebrew text on your screen reads, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Or if you prefer that the tetragrammaton not be pronounced, you might say Adonai instead. So in that case, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. The structure of the verse is actually rather interesting. The first two words, Shema Yisrael, means Hear, O Israel, and the last word, Echad, means one. In between those 2 points are three terms, specifically three terms, Yahweh, Eloheinu, and Yahweh again, the tetragrammaton Eloheinu, and then a second instance of the tetragrammaton. Now, most understand that to just be three different references to the same single entity, but consider this question, this hypothetical question. Is it at least possible that such is referring to three distinct things, three distinct entities, perhaps even three distinct persons who are collectively one? Now, at this point, one might be thinking this is just some sort of wacky Christian nonsense, an example of a Christian having an overactive imagination. But here we might note the interesting way that the Sūlam approaches this subject and this question. This is Parshat Teruma Qof Kaf Zayin, or paragraph 127 in the Sūlam. Commenting on Deuteronomy 6:4, it breaks down the three terms thusly. Hashem Ze'aba. The first instance of the tetragrammaton, this is the Father. Elokeinu, Zoema. Eloheinu, or our God, this is the Mother. Hashem, Ze'eranpin. The second instance of the tetragrammaton, this is Ze'eranpin. In other words, the Sūlam treats Deuteronomy 6:4 as esoterically alluding to the Father, the Mother, and the mysterious Ze'eranpin being united as one. Regarding Ze'eranpin, I'd like to show one other text, and so I'm going to quickly turn here to another passage in the same corpus. This is the same Parsha Teruma, Shin Pei, or paragraph 380. That text reads as follows: Hu Ze'eranpin, hanikra beno, basod hachatub ma shemo, ma shem beno. He is Ze'eranpin, the one called Beno, or his son, and this is the secret of that which is written. What is his name, and what is his son's name? In other words, in this text, the Sūlam applies Proverbs 30, verse 4, to Ze'eranpin. It treats the reference to the son in that verse as a reference to Ze'eranpin. So Ze'eranpin can be called the son. So, in closing, when we put these two passages together, what we get is the conclusion that the Sūlam treats Deuteronomy 6:4 as esoterically referring to a union of the Father, the Mother, and the Son. Now, does that line up perfectly with a classical Christian conception of the Trinity? No, it does not, nor would I argue otherwise. But I nonetheless thought others would find it interesting to see what sorts of concepts appear in this little-known rabbinic Jewish text. On that note, I look forward to discussing this with others. And until then, God bless.
And this is one point where I actually agree quite a bit with Mr. Schuon, is that this is an esoteric doctrine that should not have been made, in a sense, to a full exoteric doctrine.